my friends, it's that time again to jump into another risk management fun test. Good to see you here today. I hope you've taken a look at the previous episodes. Let's jump into the very first one. Here is your first question. It reads, you are working with the product owner and the developers to place certain risk items in the list of things to do. Which of the following best describes this concept? I'll give you more time to answer, but you got to hit the pause button. Okay, hit the pause button, get more time for this question. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. The best answer is B. A risk-adjusted backlog is a backlog that includes work and actions to address threats and opportunities. Okay? That makes sense to you, doesn't it? If you have studied enough about the risk-adjusted backlog. All right, let's move on to our next question. Capacity should be factored at 8 hours for team members. Is that true or false? If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. The answer to this is false. Capacity should be factored at less than 8 hours. So in other words, how much availability do you have? Is it 8 hours? No, you go to meetings, you might attend ceremonies, you might go for a dental appointment. Definitely not. So this is false. More like 6 hours and less. Some people might only have 4-hour capacity on some days. All right, let's go to our next question. You are in the process of identifying risks. You are using a technique to determine the basic underlying cause of a variance, defect, or risk. A root cause may underlie more than one variance, defect, or risk. Which method does this best describe? I'll give you some time for this one. All right, I gave you a fair amount of time for that one, my friends. All right, 3, 2, and 1. So this one, it might have caused you to scratch your head a little bit. But when you get questions like this, you need to ask yourself, which of these haven't I seen? You probably guessed it was along the line of cause and effect, but did Ishikawa analysis confuse you? When you get questions like this, you got to go with what you're more familiar with. So it's A. That's the answer. Is it unfair to have D in there? You could look at it like that, but on the exam, you're going to have 2. Which one is more correct? Have you ever heard Ishikawa analysis? No. So this is a cutout of chapter 7. This analytical technique is used to determine the basic underlying cause of a variance, defect, or risk. A root cause may underlie more than one variance. A classic cutout of cause and effect diagram or Ishikawa diagram. Okay. Cause and effect diagram, not Ishikawa analysis. That one was harsh. All right, next one. Let's take a look. Daily scrums improve communications, identify impediments, promote quick decision-making, and consequently eliminate the need for other meetings. Is that true or false? You need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. All right, that is a true statement. Very, very true indeed. This is from the world of Scrum. Daily scrums do all of those things. It's a classic cutout from the Scrum guide. Let's take a look at another one here. Developers and the product owner must channel all communication through the Scrum Master. True or false? Give you some time to think about it. All right, 3, 2, and 1. The answer to this is, of course, false. We don't have central leadership in the world of Scrum, neither do we have centralized communications. So that's false. Let's take a look at our next question. Okay. Descriptive terms such as very high, high, medium, low, and very low, or numeric values can be used for probability and impact when creating a probability impact matrix. Which term best describes this numeric value? I'm going to give you some time to think about this one. All right, let's end it. Let's end it right there. That's enough time, my friend. So what did you come up with? Let's take a look at the options. Risk score, risk quantity, risk number, EMV. Well, I hope you use process of elimination to get rid of B and C that are bogus. D is not that. D is not very high, high, medium, low, and stuff like this. The best answer is A. Risks are scored in the perform qualitative risk analysis process, and all that information is there for you to read. But the bottom line, the term that best describes very high, high, medium, low, low, stuff like that is risk score. So the answer to that is A. Here's a true or false question. Kanban can be used for everyday personal work tasks. Is that true or false? All right, 3, 2, and 1. That is true. Kanban is used by a lot of people for their personal work tasks. I'm a huge advocate of Kanban. Truly believe it's the answer to a lot of people's disorganization. Let's take a look at the next one. Your project has a 70% probability of 10 million profit, the 30% chance of 5 million loss. What is the EMV for the project? I know some of you are going to need the timer for this one, so I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about it. Think about it. All right, let's end it in 3, 2, and 1, my friends. All right, that's that about that. Let's take a look at what the options are. So what you would have done is find the P times I, probability times impact, for both risks. Add them up, right? The profit and the loss. You got a profit risk, you got a loss risk. Add them up after you find the EMV. That's what you should have done. So 0.7 times 10 million plus 0.3 times minus 5 million. I hope you didn't add the loss without putting a negative in front of it, because you wouldn't have gotten it right. All right, so the answer to this is 5.5 million. All right, since we're talking about risk so much, it would be helpful if we focused a little bit on one of the components from our hybrid project management class. It's called hpmexam.com. And in this class, we focus on all of the tasks. We try to get you in ship shape so that whatever's blocking you, you understand. And one of the things we talk about is this task 2.3, assess and manage risk, from the process piece. So when we assess and manage risk, that is really just saying we're determining our risk management options, and then we are iteratively assessing and prioritizing risks, but we are also taking action on those risks. Something that we don't think of a lot of times in the world of Agile is how risks should be managed from an Agile world. So what I would like us to do right now is hear from our buddy Roy. He's going to talk to us about risk from a more Agile perspective, because believe it or not, this exists in Agile, and we should be using things such as risk registers and other Agile, incorporating those into other Agile events. So let's take a look, listen to what our buddy Roy has to say to us here.
Yeah, a lot of these things, these risk mitigation techniques are built into the framework. You think about things like, short sprints. Well, that gives you the opportunity for feedback and course correction. The sprint review gives you the feedback to make sure we're doing the right stuff. It's constant validation of the product that you're building and services. Doing daily scrums, that's a constant synchronization point to make sure that we can work together as a team. There's tons and tons of things that are built into the process to help us mitigate risk. Even the ability to change scope is a risk mitigation technique. The risk of delivering the wrong product or something that your customers don't actually want or use. So all of these are built in risk mitigation techniques. However, there's also more that we want to do. And so we follow a lot of the same techniques to determine the impact and the probability. But fortunately, there's a lot of passive risk mitigation built into the framework. Right? Back to you, Phil.
All right, great stuff from our buddy Roy there. So let's jump straight back into our questions. We've got just a couple questions left. This one says, leading, training, and coaching the organization in its Scrum adoption is a job of the Scrum Master. What do you think about that? We're talking about the entire organization here. What do you think? True or false? All right. If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, and 1. This is, of course, true, right? It's a job of the Scrum Master. Scrum Master should always be on the lookout to see when there's a training, coaching, mentoring opportunity. All right, and that's what leaders do. Remember, Scrum Master, code name for servant leader, facilitator, whatever you want to call it. Also take a look at page 41 in the Agile Practice Guide, right? For those of you that haven't focused on the Agile Practice Guide, I want to recommend it. Page 41. Okay, that will help you hunker down and understand some of these roles a little bit better and know what to expect on the exam by virtue of how these roles are named and so on. All right, let's go to another one. This one says, on a Scrum project, the developers who will be doing the work are responsible for the sizing. Is that true or false? What do you think? If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. This is true. People doing the work, they are responsible for sizing the work. It's absolutely true. All right, we have just one final question for you. Let's take a look at our final question here. This will close us out for today. Before we do that, though, we got another important thing to talk about. So we talked about risks. We talked about how to handle those from an Agile standpoint. Well, we also need to talk about something else that is pretty important. It's the concept of impediments. All right. So talk about risk, you'll balance it up, talk about impediments, because we also have to address this in an Agile world. Okay. So we often hear the term impediments more. Let's listen to our buddy Roy and hear what he has to say.
For me, regardless of the process that you're following, this should be an absolutely critical thing that you can do as project managers and the team should be doing in order to improve performance. What I find with more traditional approaches, we may identify the impediments, we may identify those things that are slowing us down, but it's kind of viewed that it's okay if something is slowing us down because we can go start something else. So while that's being resolved, it's perfectly fine to start new work. Well, in Agile, we strongly discourage that. And instead, we say, if you have a blocker, go get that blocker removed. That blocker has stopped you from working on something that was identified as high priority. So if you are stopping this particular work, moving on to something else, you have intentionally selected something of lower value, lower priority, and you have agreed you started working on it. And that is not a good idea for us to do that. Now, of course, there are times when you do have to do that because it takes some time to remove that blocker, but don't make that your default. And the team will likely make that default simply because it's easier, right? It's easy to go start something new. It's a lot harder to go get something escalated, right? So go get those things resolved. Go fix these things. So along those lines, make sure that you build a culture of impediment removal. Every time you stop and start something, switch to something else, you are reducing your cycles, you're reducing your efficiencies, and we want to get rid of that. So with that culture, the whole organization is focused on helping the team get faster, and that team is then going to be hyper productive, not just productive, not high performing, but hyper performing, and that's where we want to get to. Now that kind of leads us gently into risks as well, because risks have an opportunity of becoming impediments. So a truly, truly productive team is not just focusing on removing the blockers that they've uncovered. They're also focusing on the risks, which will eventually become blockers. That's a truly productive team. That's where we want to get to.
Maximum productivity, that's where it's at. All right, let's take a look at this final question, my friends. Very straightforward, based on what our buddy has told us. You are in the process of identifying risks. You're using a technique to identify threats by starting with a problem statement. For example, the project might be delayed or over budget, and exploring which threats might result in that problem occurring. Which technique does this best describe? This is one that I know you're going to need some time for sure. So I'm going to let you take some time in answering this final question. Let's go for it. Final question. All right, my friends, that closes out our question segment. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. You probably guessed there was some trickery involved based on the options being very similar to what you had seen prior. And that's because the answer is not either of those tricky options. The answer is C this time. Again, going back to page 415 in your PMBOK guide, this is the best option. Root cause analysis is used to uncover the underlying causes that lead to a problem, but look at what it says. It starts with a problem statement. Ishikawa does not start with a problem statement, right? Cause and effect diagram, same as Ishikawa, same as YY, same as cause and effect, right? Cause and effect, Ishikawa, YY, all the same thing. But the bottom line is they are different. And if you read the explanations in the PMBOK guide, you really see the differences between them. And that's why the answer is C. Okay. I hope you found this to be useful. If you are looking for a solution, remember to get you into shape really on an emergency as maybe your final 1 month of studying, you need to go on down to the PMP exam immersion page. It's hpmexam.com, right? At hpmexam.com, every Sunday, we come to you with a half-day boot camp to kick the tires, boot you into shape, and you get 30 days. So if your exam is in the next 30 days, you need to be in the hpmexam.com PMP Immersion Course. It's a 4-hour no-nonsense course, boots you into shape, gives you a solid book for your PMP exam. You get this in PDF. So there's really no need for you to lug it around, just PDF. And then the cool thing about this PDF, once you've got it, you just go to Edge, the Microsoft Edge, and this is what you can do with it. I'm going to show you how I use this to read the entire 35 tasks for the PMP exam back to me. This is one of the advantages of having a publication like this. Not only does it have great quizzes and sections, you could actually just get Edge to read it back to you like this. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Just click on this right here. Edge is going to read this to me in any
language. As a conflict
language.
response. This was well summarized in the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument shown below. Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument.
See that?
The importance of team dynamics in the people domain. One of the main tasks of the project manager is to keep track of the team dynamics and inspire collaboration and solve problems.
Understanding Tuckman's stages of team development could help the project manager understand team dynamics. Purchased by customer underscore name, customer underscore email, hashtag trans.
And you get the idea. You can get this to read any section of the content to you. So if you wanted to read this book on audio, just get into the immersion. The book comes with the course. You get what I'm saying? Come into the immersion course, you get the book. And then you can just get the book read
Includes
back to
a final mock exam.
See that? No, stop. So you get the idea. You're going to get the book, like I said. PMP Exam Immersion is a solid book. We've got every task in the outline explained from an agnostic point of view, and then go in a little bit more into the agile, hybrid, and some predictive, but it's a very healthy dose. When you come aboard the program, you will get that. That's why I recommend it. Okay, so I appreciate you joining me on this very quick run. This is a second session in a series of 4, and it's about agile and risk for your PMP exam. Okay, hope you found this to be helpful. See you around, and all the best on the exam.